Hello, hello, hello everyone, and welcome to my reaction to One Piece episode 1149, The Void Century, a revelation about a sinking world. In the live chat, we have Dark Shadow, Tiago, Booty, Modru, Sal is here, Doji, I'm not sure who else might be lurking, but if you want to see the reactions live, I do post my reactions, or I do my reactions on Twitch, but the playbacks are not saved, so those are only posted to Patreon or Discord. So yeah, just wanted to say thank you to everyone who supports me. I have a lot of fun every weekend with you guys, and I hope I can keep doing it for a long time. I am working on a big update post, so you can see like all the reactions I have available everywhere, and my gaming channel, my manga channel, and there's a lot to keep track of, so I'm working on that. And in a week or two, I'll be able to post that if anyone wants to see what else I have available on Patreon and stuff. Okay, so Bernard is also here. Let's jump in. Ku Haku no 100年世界世界沈没 Oh gosh, it was going so well. Sekai, if it's this way, it's not sa, so it must be chin. Sekai Chinbotsu no Shinjitsu.
空白の100年世界沈没の真実
Chinbotsu no Shinjitsu. For yourself. We're running as fast as we can. Whoa, I love the style. Wow. Jeez, he's so much bigger than you realize. Jeez. Oh my gosh. Look at him sitting so... Yo.
世界とは島と島とを行き来するもの。
Mhm,
航
mhm.
海は困難で自国の文化しか知らない。
Yo, they did that
終える
good.
ものも少なくない。今さら何を当たり前なことを。海など危険なだけじゃ。この我々の持つ常識は1000年前の世界には当てはまらぬ。空白の100年の中で起きた天変地異によって世界は一度海に沈んだのだ。我々は今かつての大陸の断片の上に暮らしておるのじゃ。1000年前の世界は今見る影もなく海底に沈んでおる。大昔世界には我々の知る由もないいくつかの大陸があったと考えられる。とんでもねえ話に。おい、どこへ行くのじこ。世界に危機が。
後で教えて。私はみかん畑見てくる。
のじこ。不可能なことじゃ。
I love seeing Noshiko again.
くしくもこれな。
ドクター・ベガパンクか。でかいこと言う若造だね。
Young fellow.
常識ってのは覆されるためにあるもん。
That's Miss Valentine and the Miss Golden Week and Miss Merry Christmas. Oh, it's so nice to see her again, and she even has a little apple on her head. Has she always had that apple on her head? Nice hat. I really like her from those days because I like her power, since it's not based on a devil fruit. And she's like hypnotic painting. I love that.
ならば原因は他にある。先日の世界規模の海面上昇を感知した時。
And that's not even like that's a very long time. Like that's more than most people live. But in terms of the larger picture, not based on one human life, like one human lifetime, I should say, 100 years in the history of the world, it's nothing. So that's why I like this line. A natural cataclysm of that size wouldn't subside in just 100 years. But to us, I mean, we couldn't say just 100 years. But of course, in the grand scheme of things, yeah, that makes sense. The one that left, right? Or the family that left, the 20. Maybe, what if they never left? Or what if one never left? Or what if, that's, I don't know. Someday. In the right hands. It's...
Labophase の地下研究所とサイファーポールたちが落ちてきた。参ったな。麦わらの一味にもう島雲を送り込めへん。
落ちたってどういうこと？
またヤバい五老星が一人そっちへ向かったんや。頼む。ステューシー、逃げろ。すまん、辛い思いをさせて。と 友達やったんやな。裏切らせて悪かった。葛藤は人間の証やぜ、ステューシー。好きにしてええから、必ず生き延びろ。はい。
ロシア王国が消えた。そんな情報入ってません。
Oh my gosh, that guy looks like the guy from Spirited Away had way too much candy. Because it's the mustache.
私の生み出した炎が古代兵器を起動させてしまったのじゃ。どこの誰が実行したのか何もわからぬが。
You have no idea, really? None at all. But he said he was only going to talk about facts, so nothing that he's speculating.
私は多くの人命を奪う行為に加担した。重責を感じてる。申し訳ない。かつて世界を海に沈めた人為的災害は実行可能と証明された。ベガパンク、あんたのせいじゃない。じゃあブルトは桃之助様、発言にはお気をつけよ。わかった。古代兵器は過去に3つ存在し、
Yeah. Of course you would pan over Crocodile for that line. They were ancient weapons. Joy Boy sought to pass them on to future generations. Maybe for self-protection. Like, Because if it's like, usually the government has all the power. So if the government, it's like if the government can have guns, the people should have guns. I don't know, that's a controversial opinion, right? And besides, even if you tell people you can't, it's the bad ones who end up doing it anyway. So if those things are gonna exist, like you can ban knives, but it's like during COVID when they made buying alcohol illegal, so people just made their own, and then a bunch of people got alcohol poisoning. You see my point? Simple, like silly examples, but maybe that's my first initial thought. Like, he wanted to pass them on because they were always gonna be there. Like, once a gun is invented, it was always gonna be reinvented. No matter how many times you try and scrap the plans, like if something can be made, it will be made. So maybe he just wanted to make sure that, okay, I don't know. I'm trying to think here. Oh, it's kind of like, if all the countries have nuclear weapons, they'll think twice about using it, you know, on each other or something like that, right? There's that. Oh. He's really Wano styled, isn't he? Isn't he? I feel like I never noticed that before. And I feel like someone recently pointed it out, but then it didn't sink in, and now I'm like, whoa. It's just interesting because it's happening in like 100 years, much faster. So that's why he's saying all evidence points to it not being a natural occurrence. Whereas I think in this book, it explains it over a much longer period of time, more naturally, the rise and fall of the sea levels. And people were able to adapt because the change was slow. And back then, people were more, they traveled a lot. And then eventually, farming and irrigation or whatever was invented. And then they were more established, so they never traveled back, or I'm not sure. I can't find it in the book, so I can't explain to you now. But it's just so interesting how that is, like, you can look it up in the real world history, and now Oda is using that kind of thing, but an accelerated version, a man-made catastrophe, and building like his whole world around that. Because if I'm not mistaken, Oda had his ending planned out, as most of the greatest writers do. They had the ending in mind, and then they wrote the story, with the ending in mind. So meaning, probably he had all of this already like in his head back then, 20 years ago? So I just find it's a very cool concept to base a story on. And I'm looking forward to how it's going to resolve itself, if at all. Like, where is it going to go from here? What's going to happen? There's so much, right? But the Bonnie scene you wanted to compare in the manga is around halfway, chapter 1115. The guy that was zoomed in the pub is 5 to 6 pages after that. But I don't need to see the guy that was in the pub. My question is just, do we know him? Because I don't recognize him. Okay, so let me just quickly take a peek at 1115. I just didn't understand the flow of that scene. Because Sanji is faster than Frankie. So why was Sanji like, he was in the background paused? Like the way that they framed that, the way that they literally made him look paused in time. And then Frankie was able to move. So we have in 1115, the chapter was called Pieces of a Continent. And this is where we see Demalo Black, who was actually shown in the last episode. So what that means is like they switched some things around, and Zunisha and Carrot. So here on page 7, it ends with without Stella around, who do I live for? And then it switches to, don't let him use that katana. The old geezer can cut through anything. And then he says, bio response detected, and he turns to Bonnie. And you just see the text, look out, Bonnie, and she's screaming, and then she's small, so the katana actually misses her because of that. Wait, where does Frankie come in? Is he the one that jumps and says, look out, Bonnie? So Sanji falls, one of the giants fall, slices at her, and then she's small. And he cuts off the head of the ship. And I can't tell, but it looks like Frankie then catches her. But I couldn't see where he jumped out at her, but I don't know. That's a bit of a... It's like they didn't really know. Oh, wait, there's Frankie to the left. And I still can't really tell what's happening here. It's just weird the way they posed Sanji in the background when... but it's not a big thing. I just didn't understand the flow in the episode, but I also don't really understand the flow in the manga. So Sanji and the giant is blown back, and then he turns around to attack Bonnie, and Frankie uses his elbow to push her down, and in that moment she turns back to a kid. So that's his arm above her. It makes sense because there's so much chaos, and Sanji and the giant are blown back, and Frankie had an opportunity to jump in, But I just feel like that it didn't make sense to me to see Sanji sitting and Frankie being able to get to Bonnie faster. But in the manga, you see he's blown back. So that makes more sense to me in terms of flow. Like, he's blown back, Frankie gets an opportunity to move forward, rather than having Sanji sit upright and Bonnie like pause in the background. Anyway, such a small thing, but I thought that it didn't make sense to me in the anime. But I understand the flow in the manga now. Cool. It was a really good episode. Flow-wise, besides that one little moment that my head didn't wrap around. But the visuals were so nice, with the exception of like one flash moment. But I mean, other than that, very consistent. I love seeing all the other characters. That moment with Emu looking up at that painting. What the fuck? Man. Ugh. And then freaking York. Just frustrating. And then just the ending. So much mystery, so much hype. And then apparently there's going to be no episode on the 23rd. So just a heads up if you haven't heard. I was told that there's no new episode on the 23rd of November. And then around January, the anime is going on a break again, right? And I did share my thoughts on that in the last week's reaction intro. I think I shared my thoughts on the break. And I'm happy with the break. A little sad to know they're going to stay stuck on the 1-2-1, adaptation. But someone in the comments explained, like, they kind of did the math. If they were to adapt 1.5, even with a break, they would still catch up to the manga. So I get that they can't do that. But then take a longer break. No, I'm kidding. I feel like at some point, I hope that they should catch up to the manga. So that, with the last few chapters, you have the last few chapters coming out and then the last few episodes coming out. But I think they would never do that. But in my mind, that would be the best way because, well, I think actually, no, that's not true. There's no best way to do it unless it's 1-to-1. Like, the last chapter comes out, the last episode comes out. Because otherwise, either way, people are going to be spoiled. I'm just really, really happy I decided to catch up with the last break. I was contemplating for about, quite a while to catch up. But something was holding me back. And then I don't remember if it was just before the break was announced or just after the break was announced. But I think it was just after because then that 6-month break. And I was like, that's like a sign. Like, I've been thinking about this and now it's going on a break. It's a sign. So. At least do like they did in these last 2 weeks. They adapted 3 chapters and 2 episodes. Because they were... Yeah, but that's 1.5. That's my ideal. 3 chapters in 2 episodes. That's 1.5. It's easier to do 1-1 when there's a lot of action. Yes. Because then you can expand on the action and stuff. But maybe they will do something like that. Like, mostly keep it 1-to-1. But every now and then, for the dialogue-heavy chapters, they'll do 1.5. Maybe that's a possibility. But I think that the next arc probably is a great place to 1-to-1 if you expand a little bit on the scenes and the characters and like give, they could really do it nicely even with 1-to-1 with the next arc. We'll see. Okay, so I'm going to take a short, well, first let me say goodbye, and then later I'll be live on YouTube for the manga chapter read along. The new chapter, what chapter is it? 1165. So if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget here live in the live tab. That's where you can get my manga read-alongs up to 1149, but this has a lot of chill and chat beforehand. So if you just want straight up manga read-alongs with timestamps, the manga channel. That has everything from when I started reading it.